is often described as the calm heart of America, filled with endless cornfields and the warm, traditional values of the Midwest. But behind that familiar image lies a much darker reality for some of its residents. Imagine living in a place where abandoned buildings stand as silent witnesses to past glory, industrial pollution darkens the sky, and crime rates make people lock their doors twice before going to sleep. From dying industrial cities to remote settlements forgotten by time, we are about to examine the other side of the Hoosier State. These are 15 small and isolated towns in Indiana that, based on the latest statistical data and on-the-ground realities, are considered some of the worst places to live. We begin with a city often labeled one of the most miserable in America, Gary. Founded in 1906 by U.S. Steel, this city was once a global industrial beacon. Today, Gary is a very real dystopian image. Its population has collapsed from more than 175,000 to just around 66,000 people, leaving the city hollowed out. According to recent data, poverty levels remain above 30%, with thousands of abandoned buildings creating a haunting landscape on nearly every street. Gary is not only dangerous in terms of crime, consistently ranking among the highest in Indiana, but also dangerous in terms of infrastructure. Yet, here's a striking fact. Gary is the birthplace of Michael Jackson. Ironically, his childhood home now sits amid a neighborhood that stands in sharp contrast to the global success he achieved. Moving slightly east, we arrive at a city that is quite literally breathing in the poison of its past. East Chicago is not the place for anyone dreaming of clean air. This city was once a heavy industrial hub, and it is now paying a steep price. In recent years, East Chicago made national headlines due to soil contamination crises involving lead and arsenic in the West Calumet Superfund zone. Health data shows long-term risks for children here are far above the national average. Beyond environmental damage, East Chicago is also under intense social pressure. Its violent crime rate is alarmingly high for a city of its size. With massive oil refineries and steel plants dominating the skyline, the city often feels like an industrial prison for residents who lack the financial means to relocate somewhere safer. Leaving the northern pollution behind, we turn to a city that was once the heart of the automotive world. Ask locals what destroyed Anderson, and many will answer with two letters: GM. General Motors once employed more than 25,000 workers here, making Anderson prosperous and stable. But when the factories permanently closed, the city plunged into a prolonged economic depression. Median household income here now sits well below the Indiana average, and the downtown area looks like a rusting time capsule from the 1970s. A lesser-known fact, Anderson was once a center for early electric vehicle production, with the LNP car in the early 20th century. Unfortunately, that innovation was not enough to save it. Today, rates of sexual and property crime in Anderson often shock those who assume it is just another quiet small town. And when we talk about cities with contradictory statistics, take a look at this one. How could you not? Muncie presents a strange paradox. On one side, there's Ball State University, modern and dynamic. But on the other side, Just step outside the campus area, and you'll see the harsh reality of systemic poverty reaching 27.7%. This city has lost much of its industrial base, like the closure of the Borg-Warner plant, which had a huge impact. Interestingly, Muncie was once the subject of a famous sociology study called Middletown in the 1920s, where it was considered the most representative city of the real America. But today, that real face looks weary. Many neighborhoods are physically deteriorating, and the lack of jobs outside the education sector pushes university graduates to leave as soon as they get their diplomas. From a research city, we move to a city with the most iconic aroma in Indiana. Terre Haute has a reputation that's both unique and unfortunate. Its nickname, Terre-tucky, refers to the city's perceived backward feel. One of the most common complaints from both visitors and locals is the unpleasant odor that often hangs over the city, caused by a combination of waste treatment plants and certain manufacturing activities. Economic data shows the poverty rate in Terre Haute remains at 26%. The city is also home to a federal maximum security prison, which creates a gloomy psychological impression. Even though it has Indiana State University, the local economy feels stagnant. A lack of investment in public infrastructure makes Terre Haute feel like a city that stopped growing 2 decades ago. Meanwhile, being right next to Chicago hasn't been a blessing for Hammond. This city has inherited all the major problems of the nearby metropolis without gaining much of the economic benefit. After the recent closure of the legendary Franciscan Hospital, Hammond is now struggling with a basic healthcare access crisis. Hammond's population has been shrinking steadily since its peak days. Statistically, Hammond has one of the highest property crime rates in Indiana, where break-ins, vehicle thefts, and shootings happen daily. The city feels dense, yet lacks opportunity. Its aging housing infrastructure makes many areas in Hammond look run down and poorly maintained, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty for its residents. Next, we have a small city that also proves lost population is a major red flag. Yes, Marion is a classic example of a small Indiana town that's lost its appeal. Once a center for paper and glass manufacturing, all that's left now is the skeleton of its former glory. Population decline here is among the fastest in central Indiana. Why is that bad? Because a shrinking tax base means schools are underfunded, roads go unrepaired, and public facilities close one by one. For young people in Marion, the future often means buying a one-way bus ticket to Indianapolis or Fort Wayne. An interesting fact, Marion is the birthplace of legendary actor James Dean, but unfortunately, that historical legacy isn't strong enough to hold back the tide of poverty now sweeping the city. But what happens when a city depends too much on a single industry that's extremely sensitive to the economy? Elkhart is known globally as the RV capital of the world. Around 80% of all recreational vehicles worldwide are made in this area. However, this dependence is a double-edged sword. When the American economy is stable, Elkhart thrives. But once inflation rises or gas prices spike, the RV industry crashes, and Elkhart instantly becomes the city with the highest unemployment in the state. This economic vulnerability creates social instability. Recent data shows a rise in violent crime in Elkhart, now rivaling South Bend. Living here means dealing with constant economic anxiety. One day you have a high-paying job, and the next day, your factory shuts down without warning. Speaking of its neighbor, South Bend also has a story that's no less grim. Yes, South Bend might sound impressive thanks to the prestigious University of Notre Dame. However, that university is technically in a different jurisdiction, Notre Dame, Indiana. South Bend itself is a different story. The city was once home to automotive giant Studebaker, and since its collapse in the 1960s, South Bend has never fully recovered. The violent crime rate in South Bend consistently stands at an alarming 39 per 1,000 residents. It even ranks among the 100 most dangerous cities in the U.S. Infrastructure on the city's west and south sides is in very poor shape, with many buildings in ruins. Despite downtown revitalization efforts, the contrast between the luxurious campus area and the surrounding impoverished neighborhoods creates a real sense of social tension. Now we move to a city that's deeply isolated in the east. If any place could be called a symbol of isolation, it's Connersville. Geographically far from any interstate highways, the city struggles to attract new investment. Connersville was once nicknamed Little Detroit for its strong automotive industry, but now that name feels more like a mockery. With factory after factory shutting down, Connersville is trapped in a deep cycle of poverty. Access to higher education and specialized medical care requires residents to drive very far. Today, the only thing being produced in mass here is residents' frustration over a stagnant economy. From the eastern interior, we head to the shore of Lake Michigan, a place full of contradictions. This is Michigan City, one of the most puzzling places in the state. On one hand, there's the beautiful lighthouse view and sandy beaches drawing thousands of tourists. On the other hand, it's one of the most dangerous places in Indiana. Crime data consistently puts this city on the blacklist due to high rates of assault and robbery, with figures 11.9% above the state average. The contrast between upscale tourist areas and crumbling low-income neighborhoods is striking. In addition, the city is home to the Indiana State Prison, adding a grim layer to its identity. For permanent residents, the beauty of the lake just isn't enough to offset the high cost of living and the lack of stable local jobs. Moving on to a small city living in the shadow of its failing neighbor. Lake Station is Gary's often overlooked neighbor, but it faces problems nearly as severe. Financially, the city has been on the brink of bankruptcy for years. Its tax base is so low that public services operate at a bare minimum. Schools in Lake Station continue to struggle with extremely limited funding, directly impacting the future of its younger generation. There's no thriving downtown or promising industry here. Lake Station is simply a place for people stuck in low-wage jobs who can't afford better housing elsewhere in northern Indiana. Now we head south to see the environmental impact on a city. Evansville, the largest city in southern Indiana, faces a different but very serious issue: health. This city was once ranked as having the highest obesity rate in America. It also frequently appears on lists of the nation's unhealthiest cities. And it's not without reason. Evansville is surrounded by coal-fired power plants that produce poor air quality, contributing to high rates of asthma and respiratory illness. Most recently, the city was named the rudest in the U.S. Beyond pollution and public image, Evansville is also at the center of the opioid crisis in southern Indiana. Substance abuse here has damaged family structures and put extra pressure on emergency services and law enforcement. Although physically the city may look better than Gary, the crisis beneath the surface, health and addiction, makes it a difficult place to live. Next, Richmond was once an outstanding cultural hub, the place where early jazz recordings were made at Gennett Records. But today, it's better known for crime reports than its musical history. In addition, the city's infrastructure is aging, and its downtown is filled with permanently closed stores. Drug issues have also become a destructive force for the local economy. The city feels like a place with plenty of historical potential, but lacking the resources or leadership to turn that history into a brighter future for its people. And the final city on our list is a small town you've probably rarely heard of. Don't be misled by its exotic name. Brazil, Indiana, is a small town facing hard times. As a very remote city, its main issues are poverty and lack of access. Median income here is very low, and career opportunities are nearly zero unless you're willing to commute far to Terre Haute or Indianapolis. Entertainment and social facilities are minimal, creating boredom that often leads to social issues among teenagers. Yes, Brazil is the face of many small towns in America that have been left behind by modernization, a place where hope often feels like a luxury that residents can't afford. In the end, these 15 cities give us an honest look at the challenges Indiana faces in the modern era. Deindustrialization, health crises, and geographic isolation have turned once thriving towns into places of struggle. But it's important to remember that behind every statistic and crime report, there are people who continue to stay and love their cities, trying to make change even when the road is steep. Is a worse city doomed to stay that way forever? Or is it simply a cycle to pass through on the way to long-term recovery?